welcome back to my kitchen. It is Wednesday, hump day, the end of another busy work day for me. And it's time to stare into the abyss of the fridge and cupboards and determine what we should have for supper. So I've been percolating on this for a long time, and I have decided that tonight is the night for a Mexican. So we're doing a few different Mexican dishes tonight. For supper, we're going to have game day nachos, which are not at all healthy, not at all low fat, not at all good for you, but they taste really good and they come together pretty easily and they feed a crowd. And then as something that I'm going to sort of be eating off of for the rest of the week, I'm going to make a gigantic pot of Mexican chicken soup. So stay with me and let's get cooking. Okay, so I've got my skillet heating here, and we're just going to put a little bit of olive oil, not too much, just a little splash. And I have a pound of ground beef, which I've thawed. Let's get that into the pan. We're just going to kind of scramble fry the beef until it's cooked through. I'm going to drain off any excess fat that comes off of our meat. Okay, so our beef is cooked all the way through, as you can see, and because there is a horrifying amount of oil that still comes off of this beef, I gave it a drain. I pressed it into a strainer, drained off all the excess, and I gave it a little bit of a rinse. I know it's very unconventional, but nobody needs all that extra fat, and it really doesn't affect your taste, I promise you. So, okay, so to our beef, we're gonna add a packet of your favorite brand of taco seasoning. This is just a mild Old El Paso. We're gonna add a can of, this is Bush's baked beans, doesn't have to be Bush's. I actually normally like Heinz. But when I went to the store to get them, of course, there was nothing but Bush's left. So this is what we've got. And we're going to add about a quarter of a can of hot tap water to that. Yeah, we're going to turn the heat back on. Going to mix everything. Going to heat it. Get it nice and bubbly. Now, I mentioned earlier that these are not healthy and not good for you. But I mean, there are ways you can make them a little bit better for you. We are trying here. So earlier I grated some cheddar cheese to go on top. This is light cheddar. You can use light cheddar. Using a lean or an extra lean ground beef, of course, helps when you're making your topping. The other thing I have done is, I know tortilla chips are tortilla chips, and there are better ones even than these, but go for something that is like a multi-grain instead of like a, you know, a regular chip. It just adds a little bit of fiber, which is just a little something that you can do positive for yourself if you are having a meal that's, you know, like this. The other thing is, you're not eating, hopefully you're not eating stuff like this all the time. This is a very occasional treat. All right, we're bubbling, we're brewing. I'm going to transfer this to a bowl, and we're going to move on now to some of the other things. We're going to work on the Mexican chicken soup, and we're also going to whip up some homemade guacamole to go with these nachos when they come off the grill. Okie doke. So I have in my pan here 2 chicken breasts that I started sauteing in a little bit of olive oil. They're whole chicken breasts at this point, but I am eventually going to chop or shred them. I just added a little bit of water to the pan to deglaze the bottom because there was some brown bits from when we made the toppings for the nachos. So let's just take a peek, give them a turn. Okay, that's looking good. So we're just gonna let that go. Now we are gonna work on our guacamole. So I think the first thing we're gonna do is we're going to chop ourselves some garlic. I always say the more garlic the better for guacamole. So we're going to use 3 decent size toes of garlic here. Just give them a little whap. And we're going to pop them in our food processor, which I used earlier to grate the cheese. And I didn't clean it out in between because cheese is not gonna, any cheese residue that's in there is really not gonna hurt your guacamole. It's all going to the same place and it all tastes pretty good. It's always a stubborn one. There we go. Okay. So we'll just throw our lid on here and we're gonna pulse our garlic until it's finely minced. Ooh, make sure it's on there properly. There we go. Very good. Finely minced. Okay, so to that, we are going to want to add a red onion. Okay, so as I was saying, to your chopped garlic, you're going to want to add an onion, red or white. I mean, I like red. I just find that they have a little bit more punch when you're making guacamole. And by the way, with the garlic, if you don't have fresh or you don't, you just use the jarred if you have that available. That's fine too. And I'm also going to throw in a Roma tomato. Use whatever kind of tomatoes you have handy. Again, we're going to try and line this up, and we're going to pulse it till the onion's finely chopped and the tomatoes all pureed. So for reference, that's kind of the consistency we're looking for there. I like my guacamole a bit on the chunky side, but you can, puree it longer if that's something you want to do. So chicken breast, I did cut each of them in half just to see how we were doing in the middle. Still a little bit pink, so put them back in the pan with a little bit more water. When we chop and shred these, we're going to add some more water to the pan if we need to, and we're going to add some taco seasoning in there too, just to season the chicken up. Otherwise, I have used nothing on these, no salt, no pepper. Feel free to dress them up however you like. If you don't have taco seasoning, you can use cumin, you can use salt, pepper, you can use chili powder, you can use smoked paprika. Any of those make good options. Okay, avocados. These ones are perfectly ripe, and I've got 4. I have 1 more in reserve if I need, but we're going to see where we get with 4. Easiest way to peel an avocado is very carefully that you do this. Put your knife into the avocado and just very carefully work it around the outside. There's a big pit in there that's going to stop you from going all the way through, or that should stop you from going all the way through. Then when you look inside, you can see you've got your pit. Just give the pit a little tap with your knife and pull it out. Okay, and then from here, oops, I need a spoon. It's very easy to just spoon out the guts of your avocado. So I'll meet you back after I've done that for all of them. Okay, so all of our avocados are in our food processor now, and now we're just going to start pulsing. Okay, that's looking pretty good, but we still need a little bit of liquid in there. So, juice and zest of a lime or maybe 2. You have to kind of do it to your own taste and your own preference. So these have both been washed, and we're going to pop the lid off our food processor. And I'm just going to use my rasp here and go directly into the container. The zest of 1 lime is probably adequate, but it really does pack a nice lime flavor. So if you like it a little bit more intense, by all means, use the zest of 2 limes. But by the time you get that juice in there, I think you're going to find it tastes great. Something else I am going to add, only because I've got it in the fridge, is I do have some fresh cilantro. That if I don't use it, it's going to go bad, and I just don't want to waste food, especially not right now. So I'm going to put some of that in there as well. Okay, oops, make sure I get all the goodness. And then we're just going to pop our lime in half. Now, if your limes are not feeling particularly juicy, you can do one of 2 things. You can put them on the chopping block, and you can give them a good roll under your hand just to kind of release some of the juices, and it really does work. Some people also swear by putting them in the microwave for 5-second increments. I've never had so much luck with that, but you can always give them a little bit of a roll if you find you're not getting as much juice out of them as you would like. And then I'm just using my reamer to extract as much juice as possible. Good. And we're going to add a few shakes of hot sauce. Depending on how spicy you like it, add more, add less, whichever you like. And we're going to pulse it now. Where's the spatula? I need it. There it is. Okay. Scrape down my sides a little bit here, and I'm going to give it one more pulse. It's smelling really delicious, very nice and fresh. And let's see how we're doing flavor-wise. Now, I haven't added any salt, but I always suggest adding a nice amount of salt to it. That's really delicious. And it's about the proper consistency. So I'm going to put some salt in there. I'm going to add some more hot sauce, I think. Give it another little pulse, and then I'm going to put it in a bowl and set it aside in the fridge. Oh, little tip for you. If you want to help your guacamole keep a nice green color for longer, take one of the pits that you took out of your avocados when you were making your guacamole, put the pit back in the bowl, and then make sure you cover the bowl with cling film and press the film right down on top of the guacamole so that no air gets in. It's going to keep your guac a nice green color instead of having it turn that horrible khaki color green that it sometimes wants to in the fridge. All right, good to go. Okay, so I wanted to show you guys this because I realized as I was going to scrape this and put it in a bowl that I hadn't put my cilantro in. I have added my cilantro in here now and I've pulsed it. But if you have fresh herbs, I've found this is a really great way to keep them in the fridge. Tiny little bit of water in the bottom, and then keep the actual bag that you brought them home in and just loosely over the top. I don't know what it is exactly about this whole setup here, but it seems to definitely preserve their freshness for a lot longer, which if you're buying them, especially now when they're not as plentiful in the stores, you definitely want to do. Okay, so we're going to start on our Mexican chicken soup. So to a large sauce pot, I've got just a little bit of olive oil on the go in here. Things that we're going to be adding to our soup include, of course, our chicken, which in between here I did shred very finely. Just use my food processor, and I threw in a packet of taco seasoning with that as well. Normally I would love to use corn in something like this, but since I went to the cupboard and I didn't have any canned or any frozen corn, we're doing the next best thing and we're improvising. So these are toppings left over from last night. I made pizza in my wood-fired pizza oven for the first time. So we've got some chopped red pepper, we've got some, chopped red onion, we've got some chopped yellow pepper. There's even a few pieces of mushroom in there. That's all right. In the spirit of using everything up, piece of onion skin that we don't need. So we're going to just give that a nice stir and saute that down over like a medium-high heat until the pepper is softened and the onion and the mushrooms have released some of their juices. So what else are we putting in here? Well, we have a box of reduced sodium chicken stock. I've got a can, these are 16 medley, so like a mixed beans. We've got a can of diced tomatoes. I'm going to put in 1 cup of salsa. I'm going to do the juice and zest of another lime. Maybe some cilantro, not sure yet, going to give it the old taste test. Probably some hot sauce and some cumin. Now, I didn't have ground cumin, I only had whole cumin seed. So I'm just going to take those seeds and rub them between the palms of my hand and pop them in there. So as soon as this is all sauteed down, which isn't going to be that much longer actually, it's coming together nice, I'll add my chicken and then we're going to assemble everything else. Okay, so everything in this pot has sauteed down really nicely. So I'm going to add my shredded chicken breast. That's 2 chicken breasts that I have shredded and added some taco seasonings to. And already you can smell those Mexican flavors, the cumin and the sauteed red onion. Oh man, it smells good actually. We're going to add our beans with all the juice. I know some people prefer to rinse them, but actually I'm thinking it might help our soup thicken up just a bit. Oops, piece of pepper. In goes our can of diced tomatoes. And here is our reduced sodium chicken broth. We're going to add the whole thing. There's about 4 cups, I think, in here. This is going to make enough soup to probably feed 8 people, which is a lot of lunches for me. I am actually on the Weight Watchers plan right now, and so I'm a big proponent of homemade soups that I know exactly are within my plan, that I can just sort of reach for, and I don't have to feel guilty or, about grabbing something for lunch. It's smelling really good. And then I'm going to measure out 1 cup of salsa of your choice. Use mild, use medium, use hot, whatever you'd like. I'm going to turn the heat up a little bit so we can get everything in here percolating. This is looking really good already. And again, juice and zest of our lime going right into our pot. A lot of people, when I cook at the Senior Center, I've had people ask me about this tool. This was actually a gift to me from a friend that I used to work with at the Tillsonburg News. He picked it up for me for my birthday one year from Williams Sonoma, I believe. Excuse me. And I just call it a rasp. Some people would call it a grater, but it's really fine, and it does a beautiful job on things like citrus zest. This is a kitchen tool that if I lost it, I would have to go right out and replace it, because I use this a lot. And there's just nothing I've used that works quite as well. Okay, lost my reamer. Okay, I think the reamer is in the sink. Ugh. Okay, had to wash some dishes and find my reamer. Because, again, it's just one of those things that does a super good job of getting every last little bit of juice What is in that lime, out of that lime. Now again, I think this would have been fantastic with some corn in it. It's just something that seems to be a natural flavor for this. But we're working with what we have, and we're not making extraneous trips to the grocery store to do it. That is looking fantastic. So I'm going to bring it up to a simmer and reduce the heat, simmer it a little bit, give everything in here a chance to melt. And then basically this is it for my soup. I'm just going to kind of leave it, and it's going to be lunches for the next few days. Let's give a little taste test and see how we're doing so far. That's really nice. I think it does need some salt, and it definitely needs some hot sauce. So I'm going to definitely do that. And then I'm going to just clap a lid on it and leave it, and we're going to get our nachos ready to go on the barbecue. Okay, so here's a look at our soup with some fresh cilantro and also some fresh parsley that I found hiding in my fridge added. It looks delicious. It tastes really good, and I think it's one of those soups that's going to get even better the longer it sits. So the idea is you serve this hot in a bowl with toppings like crumbled up tortilla chips or cheddar cheese or some sour cream. Now, I mentioned earlier it's Weight Watchers soup, so it is basically almost a completely free soup. There's maybe 1 point per serving. So you can actually feel free to add a few of those toppings, even the full fat variety if that's what suits you. But anyway, that's looking good, so I'm going to clap a lid on it and we're going to head out to the grill for our nachos. Okay, welcome to my indoor kitchen in progress. It's a little project I'm working on this year. So I've got my barbecue going. I have all the burners on right now, but it's going to get way too hot to cook those nachos. So what I'm going to do is you're going to turn off, you're going to turn off 3 of the burners, and we're going to turn back, I've got my dog trying to get into stuff here, and we're going to turn back the others. And we're hoping to keep it at about, I'm hoping between 375 and 400. I'm going to use indirect heat. We're going to put the tray with the nachos on the side of the barbecue that is off. Anyway, come on over here to my prep area. So I've got a cookie sheet lined with some foil. I've got our beef and bean mixture, and I've got some grated cheddar cheese. Okay, so we've got our nachos. We're going to just put them on our foil-lined cookie sheet. Whoops. An entire bag. We've got our bean and meat mixture. We're just going to sort of disperse it over the top. We have 2 basset hounds clamoring for a tortilla chip that hit the ground. Land sharks is what they are. Okay, already looking really quite good. And then we're going to add our light cheddar cheese. Oh my God, so bad, but so good. All right, and we've got our oven mitts because we want to stand and literally watch this while it's on the grill, because you do not want all this to burn now that you have been working so hard on it. So it's going to go on the grill on the side that is not on, and as you can see right now, the temp marker is right about 400. That's perfect. But we're going to put it on the side that is not on, and we're going to stand and watch it. So we're just kind of peeking in at the nachos here. You can see the cheese is starting to get deliciously ooey gooey and melted. And the temperature is perfect, sitting right at 375, between 375 and 400, which is right where we want it. Nothing's going to burn here at that temperature, especially on the indirect heat, the way we're doing it. Now, of course, you can do this in your stove. You can put it in a 375 oven for 15 minutes or so, finish it up under the broiler to get things really bubbly on top. But it's such a beautiful day. I thought I would take advantage of the sunlight and be outside here, do it on my grill. And I'm very fortunate to have this grill that has the glass insert in the front panel. It's a great thing. I mean, why didn't people do this sooner? I mean, who doesn't want to look at their chicken and check their steaks and look at their pork chops without having to lift up the lid and lose all their heat? It's perfect. Okay, our nachos are looking pretty much textbook. You could leave them on a bit longer, I suppose, if you wanted to have sort of a golden brown and bubbly on top cheese, but they're looking great. So we're going to take them in and we're going to go to the plate.
Do that.
So folks, here you have it. Mexican chicken soup that will last for probably 5 days. And over here we have game day nachos with fresh guacamole, sour cream, and salsa. Enough to feed a big family, or in the case of my house, a 14-year-old and 2 adults. Thanks for joining me in my kitchen, everybody. I hope you've had a great time with me. I've had a good time with you. Stay well, stay safe, stay